EA Sports has released the amount of money that they're going to compensate college players to be in EA College Football 25. Let's talk about it. What's being reported now is that the players who will be in the game for their name, image, and likeness would be offered $600. It's an opt-in situation. So if they want to be in, have their name in the game and their likeness and all that goes with it, they would receive $600 and a $70, well, I'm going to say $70, a copy of the game, which is equivalent to about $70. So $670 is the compensation level. And Mike Florio, who writes for Pro Football Talk with NBC, posted an article really trying to say that, yeah, this is a measly amount of money when you consider the worth of EA Sports. And EA Sports is estimated to be, $37, $38 billion. But that's everything. And so he thinks that players should be paid more. And he tries to compare it to Madden and the compensation that players get for Madden, which is significantly more, at least at what he's saying, which in his article out here, they're looking at some players in Madden got up to almost $28,000 per year, $28,000 to be in Madden. But it's just a different landscape, when you talk about the Madden game and NCAA college football. Let's talk about the numbers. So I ran them. You're talking about $7.6 million set aside for EA Sports to pay these players. And that, again, the $600 and the $70. You have 134 FBS programs, 85 players that would be on the roster that would be involved in the game if they opt in. And this is assuming that everyone that does this wants to be involved. And so $7.6 million compared to, $37 billion-ish makes, that is a drop in the bucket. And if you start to divide, so you have that investment, they would need to sell 109,000 copies of the game, which they could do just to break even. That's breaking even on the investment to pay the players for their name, image, and likeness. Has nothing else with the overhead that went over to create the game and all the things that go with that for the teams that are actually making it, distributing it, all of that. So then the conversation becomes, we should be paying them more. And I'm like, really? You really think we should be paying them more? And his talk track is that the game is just going to crumble, that nobody's going to want to play it. And I hate to break it to you that people do not and will not care whether they're playing with the Quinn Ewers, whether they're playing with a Drake May, a Manning, whoever it is. In college football, they could care less. When you talk about the landscape of NIL and transfer portal and these guys moving around, and you talk about 134 FBS programs with 85 players, sure, like the initial playing that you're going to do for this immediate year or your first season on that program, maybe. But then at that point, you move into the stage of the game where you're recruiting players that are non-existent, not real, and people do not care. People that play the game that really love this game are not going to care that they're playing with a Frank Doe or recruiting a John Doe, and they're not going to care that the quarterback that they're playing for, whatever school that's represented, is not the player that's on their actual team. I know back in the day when all this started, as we got to this point, is that the players used to resemble, the Tebows, whoever was in the game. And you knew that even though they didn't have the same names, that these were pretty much those players. But it's not going to matter because you have dynasty mode, or where you're playing as an individual person out of college and you don't care who else is on that roster. Or you have a lot of people that like to play these games that go pick up an App State, that pick up a Coastal Carolina, pick up a smaller school and try to build them up and win a national championship with that program. And they're not going to care that they don't have these big names. But where I was going with this is if you think about NCAA college football, and let's go back, we said 134 schools, 85 players on the roster. So roughly a little over 11,000 people that would be compensated. Again, this is assuming everyone opts in. Let's say you wanted to bump this up to pay each of them $2,000. And we're going to say 2,000, and that includes the 70, because 19, 30 plus 70, but 2,000. Let's bump it up just a little bit. Probably could have just doubled it. It's a little over doubling that amount. You're now talking about a 22 to $23 million investment that they're having to pay again outside of everything else that goes into this game. And now to break even, we were talking about what, 100,000, a little over 100,000 copies. You're now talking about 325,000 copies of the game that need to be sold. That's a lot. That's a lot of money in any business that is running in this model. You can only invest so much. And Madden, again, is different because smaller amount of money, like sure, $28,000, if that is true, even like 20,000, you're saying what, $20,000? This is a big assumption. 20,000 times 53 times 32 teams, it's roughly $33 million invested. But they're definitely going to get their return on revenue, and people care about the players that are on that team that are playing. And what, let's see. Yeah, a little over for almost 500,000 copies to break even on that. But I know they probably do much more. But this is where I was going with this entire thing, which is what I said. And Mike responded to me, but I was like, you are trying to attack a sports game, EA Sports, that's valued at $38 billion versus the NCAA, which is probably close to $1 trillion company. It's not officially, but a billion dollar nonprofit that where these players are employees. That's where you should be going if you're trying to figure out who should be paying who and who should be compensated for what. That's where you start right there, man. If you want to attack someone for not paying or not compensating correctly, it's not a stupid video game that people want to play. It's the NCAA and everything that's over it. And it's exactly why the NCAA is going to dissolve. It's going to dissolve. And we're going to have this Big Ten, SEC alliance, and then maybe Big 12 gets sucked in. ACC's maybe out, left stranded. We'll see. But go to them, man. And I got to tell you, like, the compensation, sure, for the bigger name players that are getting these $1 million NIL deals, I'm sure they would like to be paid more to be in, NCAA football. But one, that's probably just a cool moment to be in the game itself. But then you think about all these smaller sub schools, Power Five, non-Power Five, Group of Five guys. You get to see their name in it. It's a backup, third string, whatever on that roster. Like, yeah, they'll take that $600 being in the game and getting a copy of it any day. Anyways, folks, that's all I got. Y'all have a good one.